Hello, this is, I'm thinking going live. I am live there. I'm assuming I'm going live there. And what about here? Just bear with me while I get my stuff together. Ah, yes. So hold on. Just bear with me while I get there. We go. Now I need to turn my volume down. Hold on. There. So if you are watching this live, please go to Audrey Newmont on Facebook, and I can see your comments there. I'm pretty sure. And if anybody gets in here and sees this, let me know in a comment because that helps me. Wait a minute. I got to get to this. No, I don't want to do that. There. And there we are. And the comments. Yes. So there we go. Hello, welcome to Conscious Mind Tripping with me, your host, Audrey Newmont. So nice to have another night doing this, and I have to say, it's going to be an interesting conversation, I'm thinking. So I want to start with some announcements, and we just are finishing up one more week left of our Healthy Mind, Healthy Body course. And last week was Nick, the week before was me, and the week before that was Craig Shoemaker. And I have to say, I think it's been a lot of fun, and I think it's been a lot of really good information for owning the health of your body. And this next Wednesday, one of those people is going to be my guest here on Conscious Mind Tripping. It's Craig Shoemaker. So he was the throat chakra and talking all about that was the night we're owning everything around this part of the body, what the body's syndromes are and how we create with our thoughts, with our feelings, and things that are going around in the whole throat chakra. And then there is a part of that conversation where it's about owning your word. And in various ways we can own our word. And Craig has started a new, let's just say a whole new business of laughter heals. And he does this thing called laughitation. And it is, I think, a really amazing modality for healing. So you're using laughter, and what that actually does in the body is insane. Laughter is one of the most healing things that we do in our body. That's why a lot of times I'll tell my clients, go just do something that will make you feel happy, that'll bring up that laughter. Go watch something that makes you laugh. And I want you to think about that right at the moment. He asked us, we have this group that he started called The Antidote, and it's a community group. And you can ask me more about that, or we'll talk about it next week on the show, what that is. But he asked us one night, what was the thing that we do to make us laugh? And I got to thinking about it. And besides Nick, he makes me laugh all the time. There are these funny things that people do on any of the social medias, like on Facebook. And there was one in particular where these guys are golfing and they clip like a fishing line so you can't see it with like a string attached to a fake snake. And these guys, they're like, look, there's a snake. And then the snake is chasing them. And these guys are rolling down hills and doing stuff. And for whatever reason, between that and animals doing silly things, that can just get me laughing hysterically. And think about it. What are those things that make you laugh? What are those things that make you just bubble over and it's just hysterical? There was another thing that made me just lose it. There were these women and they're trying to get into this house. One woman's wearing a dress and they put her over the top of it in the window and her dress comes up, and the other woman who's trying to help her is laughing so hard, you know she's about to have an accident. It was the funniest thing, and every time I watched it, I would just cry laughing even harder. If anybody wants, I can find that and post it so you can have a good giggle too. So part of your do this for the week is find these things that make you laugh. Start changing your algorithms if you're, scrolling, and find something that just makes you giggle and focus more on those things, and make it a task for yourself to be online and laughing a fair amount of the time. We all go in for various reasons into here. Obviously, anybody that's watching me now, Miss Kimberly, I see you're in the house. So nice to see you. Anybody that is watching, it's like you really have to manage what it is that you're doing in here. And there's a big part of it where it's creative in your life. I hear Mr. Newmont coming up the stairs. Mr. Newmont? I could have sworn I just heard him. He just was at softball practice. He's a softball coach in his other time. He has such a good time with it. So laughter heals. It truly does. And I'm really excited to have Craig here. We've been friends with him for a while, and before we knew him, he was always my favorite comedian. You can look him up on YouTube, and YouTube Craig Shoemaker, the Love Master. And every time we see him, I mean, I'm crying by the end of it. In fact, he's going to be here in Agora Hills on, I believe it's the 27th of April at the Canyon Club. So, highly recommend checking him out because it's a good night. Um, I think that's all for announcements at the moment. We've got a whole bunch of things that are going to be in the works. Actually, Nick has his astrology class coming up, and I have to get that on the books. So, if you are interested in learning astrology, he is brilliant at teaching it, and he teaches it from beginner to advanced levels. So, if you would like to learn astrological forecasts and all of that, contact us and I will get you the information. Speaking of astrology, there is a full moon tomorrow, and it's called a blood moon. And then it's also hitting around the same time as Mercury retrograde, which he's the expert at all this stuff. But I will tell you, from everything I'm looking at, it's going to be an emotional overload. So, this is that point where ahead of time, you gather your patience, you gather your ability to maybe just do what you need to do to ahead of time find all those ways to be calm in the midst of chaos. And that's another to do thing. Make a list. These are things that can help me if there is a lot going on around me to stay calm in the middle of the hurricane. Like, for an example, I love to go out in nature, obviously. I'm a solo camper. I also like to take a bath. I like to hold and pet my animals, play with them, go outside and throw the ball to my dog. Those are all very calming things. So make a list of whatever those things are that work for you. And I'm just going to say, how many of you have had a lingering, loitering cold for 4 weeks? I mean, am I the only one out here? I hardly ever get sick. And this thing is just, I thought it was gone. And then it came back again. And I'm like, did my little baby boy give me a cold again? I don't think so. Maybe I gave it to him. Maybe we're passing it back and forth because that kid drools everywhere. But if you catch me coughing, it's just, I don't feel bad at this point. It's just loitering, this cough. Anyway, Gloria, ah, I was going to call you today and I ran out of time. Sorry about your beautiful, beautiful Sir, I think it's Sir William. Ah, we have these pets and we love them so much. And when they let go, it's like, oh, as you know, it's a part of us. I remember Amber and Topaz and Jet and all these other animals that we bring into our lives and we love them and we appreciate them for all that they give to us. And as I'm saying that, here's Jasper, kitty. You want to come up? Come on. He's such a lover these days. This cat used to be the most aloof thing, and then he just became a lover boy. Isn't he so cute? He's my big boy. We call him Mr. Moose. Anyway, I get a little distracted. So, Gloria, my heart goes out to you. I know how challenging that is, and I send you all of my love. Um, William of Orange. You have the most interesting. I love that Renaissance part of you. Anyway, um, so I have some things to talk about tonight, and I'm going to put it out there. If you all have any questions or comments, I can see the comment. He is a big boy. He's quite the chubby fellow. Seriously. At any rate, if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want me to add a little bit to, let me know. And I'm watching here. Anyway, I want to start with something that I think affects all of us. It seems to be that for a while now, there have been a lot of people getting sick, a lot of people diagnosed with various things, and pretty big diagnosis. And I've had a lot of people around me where they have friends and family and loved ones that are passing. And I know it's not the easiest topic, but I want to make it a little easier. And I want to share something that just happened with me. I have a friend of mine that I've known for, I think, 34 years, right around there. And she has been a mentor for me. In fact, I've talked about her on the show when it comes to dating. All these single people, it's like you break up, and it was like, oh, that was the love of my life. And I tell this woman's story, and she had the love of her life. And fortunately, it wasn't the greatest. And then she had another love of her life, and it was the love of her life. And he passed. And then she got another love in her life. It wasn't the love of her life. And she let him go. And then she met this love of her life. And they have been together for 25 years. And he just made his transition and he just passed. And I wanted to share what happened because I've been with a few people now who have made their transition, and there's all these different ways to do it. And there's all these ways for us to be with people who are passing. So I went to see her and him, and I went in, and he's been in his life such a gentleman. And if you look at somebody, her and him, it's like there's a reason why she's my mentor. When I was growing up, I never really had somebody who set an example on a lot of levels of how to be powerful in the world, how to be confident and strong and financially successful and secure and gracious and kind and, you know, on so many levels, just giving and also just living a really good life. I mean, this woman has traveled the world, and the two of them for 25 years traveled everywhere. They went on trips all the time. And they would come back and she would tell me about her stories, and I'd live vicariously through them. And so when I went to the hospital, there was just holding his hand and reminiscing and, what were your favorite moments? I mean, he knew he was passing and he was okay with it. He was what I would call complete. That's the thing when you hit that moment where the body is saying we're done. The car is no longer going to be running, and we're going to be making that exit out of the car. There's a part of it where you have this amount of time to really be complete with everything. And so they had all this family come to visit, and everybody, I think it seems like, was complete and letting him go, and him, being able to be done in a very conscious way with this life experience. And as I was holding his hand, it was such a touching thing. He just looked up at me and smiled and he said, I've always thought of you as a daughter. And I just was like, just complete with him in that. I always just adored him since she brought him into our lives, and very much adored him because he made her so happy. And to have him say that, it was such an honor, and it was really, touching. This cough, loitering. So the reason why I say it, the reason why I'm talking about all of this, is because I think a lot of times people have a hard time either letting go of someone or letting go themselves. When my mother was exiting, there was a part where she was just terrified. And I was telling her, Mom, when you exit, it's going to look like, and I created this whole picture for her. She couldn't move anymore at that point, and I was telling her she'd be just having this whole experience that I'm not going to repeat right now. And when she actually passed that day, my husband's a medium, he's a channel, he's all these things. She came to him in the morning and she said to him, "Tell Aud she was right." Now, I hadn't told him what she had said, and she told him I was right when she actually let go, when she exited the body. It was this whole experience for her. And I think it's important to understand we're energetic beings. So when I'm talking about the first driver, that's you. That's all of us. And we are continually having this energy flowing through us. And so when we are done with this experience and we exit, it's not that there is nothing. We go to the next expression of our soul, the next experience, that next great thing that we get to play in. Another piece with my mother, I know I've said it on this podcast before, but because we're talking about this, I want to bring it up again. My mother came through my friend Lisa after she had died, and I was having a whole conversation with her. And my mother was telling me that, she's looking back over her life. And there was a part where she regretted, she wished that she literally said, "I wish I had spent more time with you and your brother instead of those cats." And I looked at Lisa, I looked at her, and I was like, "How do you know that?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's because you're my mother." I was literally having a conversation with my mother. And so in that moment, as people make that transition, obviously she's looking back over her life and she's doing a life review. And so the reason I bring all of this up is because we come into these experiences like what Alexandra and I were talking about last week. We come into this experience to fill the vessel with love. That's why Nick and I put it on our cups for our center. You fill the vessel with peace. You fill the vessel with joy. The whole reason to be here is to learn through the hard stuff and get back to calm, get back to joy, peace, love, all these things that make life worthwhile. And unfortunately, sometimes we get stuck and we forget we can change it. We can change whatever the thing is that's going on. Like my friend changed her experience and she created this next love of her life. And I've seen her since then, and believe it or not, we had an opportunity to laugh. We also had an opportunity to just be with each other and just, you know, be in the silence and also talk about the things that are happening and the things that are going to happen. And yet another reason why she is a mentor of mine, here she is, and she's doing what you should do in a moment like that. She's taking care of herself. She's going and having her physical body taken care of by the various people that work with her, and she's also allowing herself those moments to grieve and allowing her the moments to just do the things that she needs to do to stay grounded and centered. It's really a pleasure, a joy to be able to know somebody who does things like that, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of us that have struggled with the whole process of death and dying. And it is obviously one of those big, big challenges in life. So when you're here now, the other do this thing to do. Are you making your life worth living? Are you doing the things that bring about love and joy, laughter? You know, if you're not, realign it, recenter yourself, reground yourself. And that brings me to kind of the next segment of what I wanted to talk about, and it has to do with this. You know, when people come in for sessions, there's all these common stories that everybody has. I mean, common stories that everybody has. And one of the common stories is they're here in the choice point, and there's all these opportunities for the choice point to happen. Like in this particular situation that I'm thinking of, I'm in, I'm, I'm having my conscious mind tripping going on. People forget I'm doing things in here. I'm literally in a closet. At any rate, in this particular situation, it's funny because it was the person and it was having to do with their mother. And they had a similar situation to me with their mother. It's like we all have similar stories sometimes. And for her and I in the story, it's like there's a part of her that is resentful and angry with regard to the mother. And then she's got some other people that there's anger and resentment with. And I was explaining the situation. It's like when you're in the choice point now and you're holding on to anger that happened back here, resentment that happened back here, and both of the people that we were discussing, both of them had made overtures to make things better. And there was a part of it that we take on a belief that no, you don't get to make it better now. You weren't there. You did whatever you did. It wasn't good. It was hard for me. And you don't get to just make it all better now. And that is a belief that many, many people hold on to. And the crazy part about the belief is when the other person's looking to make it better, doesn't mean you need to bring them into your life and embrace them and make them your new best friend again. But you can make it where it's like, all right, in this lifetime, we can call this done and we can learn from it, we can grow from it, and we can let it go. So in this situation, one second. In this situation, I was explaining to her, and it's another mom story because she has her mother who is quite old at this point, and her mother was looking to say something nice and to recognize her in a really good way. And I was explaining to her, my mother, God bless her, judged me all the time. And she thought that I was, as I've said before, and it's the stories in my book, she she just thought what she thought about me. And it was her belief, and it was because of her childhood, and it was because of her mother, her grandmother. These things go down the line, and you can see why my mother thought what she thought. Even with me, with my daughters, each one of them, you can see a different kind of part of the program. And so when I was explaining to her, I went to see my mother. She called me on a Sunday. I was on a plane 3 hours later, leaving my three children. And I show up in the hospital room, and not exaggerating, first thing out of her mouth was, "Oh my God, you're still so heavy." It's like, really? Is that the first thing we're going to say? Okay. So at that point, I had already done a lot of my interior work, and I wasn't going to let it get to me. Um, I was a practitioner and a hypnotherapist at that point. So I had done a lot of inner, you know, letting go of those kind of things. So we're there at the hospital, and to cut the story short, there was an experience with this older woman who was basically telling me that I was a loser because I didn't own my own home. And then I married a loser because he didn't own a home. And it was like, I can't even imagine people talking to each other like that. But that's what this woman said to me. So the next day I looked at my mother and I was like, just to be clear, I am far from a loser. I have a wonderful husband, fantastic children. I have a really good life. And, you know, I'm just going to state it for the record. And she didn't say anything in that moment. But the next day, I was dealing with her doctors, dealing with all these things that you deal with when a person is, you know, dying. And there was this moment where she looked at me and it was like the veil lifted and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're intelligent, you're wise, you're capable." And she said all these things. And it was like, what is going on here? And I looked at her at the end of it and I said, "And that's who I've always been." And I'm telling you, it was this moment of grace. We had a honeymoon from that point on. She did have a couple more moments of her little judgmental self, and I realigned her. I owned my word with her. But in this lifetime, we were complete. I didn't have any more. She didn't have any more. It's like we really owned the love between us completely. And she saw me. And it was such a blessing for both of us. And so, like with this client, I told her that story. And I said, it's for all of us in our lifetime, with whoever we're in the lifetime with, we have these soul contracts with people. We have these soul partners. And like, for instance, Gloria, you and I have somewhat of a soul partnership. We've been friends for all these years. And there's this connection with us. We cannot see each other for 100 years. And we're like, hey, good to connect with you. And some of the soul contracts are more like family, are people that we connect with and we give birth to, we marry, we do whatever we do. And so when you are complete with that person at the end, that's what it's all about. That's the blessing. That's why we come here. And it's important, if you have these people that you've loved and maybe they did whatever, maybe you did whatever. It's like I was telling her, we all do what we do with the consciousness that we have at the time. And a lot of it we wouldn't do again right now. There's things I've done in my lifetime that I would never do again. And I have apologized for them. And I hope that they let it go. I know I do. Because it's, what we knew when we knew what we knew back there. So, another to do thing, look at your life. Is there anyone that you are still holding on to anger, bitterness, frustration? Whatever that looks like. In reality, the only person it's affecting is you. It can really affect the health of your body. When we have these feelings that are on the fear side, those anger, bitterness, sometimes we think, oh, I just let it go. But if you talk about it and it comes back up and you're like, grr, it's not let go of, you just suppressed it, which means it's in the trunk and it's in the body and it's creative. So the more that we dump the trunk, the more we have the heart, the vessel filled with love, then you're in the health of your body. You can have a cold, but you're still in the health of your body. So it's important to look at your timeline and look and see if there's anything that you did that other people might still be upset about. Look and see if there's other people who have done whatever, and you need to maybe find a place to let it go and fill that part of the heart back up with love. I'm looking at these comments. So I do treasure our friendship too. Be nice if you lived a little closer, just saying. The next thing that I want to talk about, it's in alignment with all of that. I have this other family that I work with, and there has been a challenge with the mom and the daughter. And I'm hearing the story and I'm watching, the interaction, and I'm understanding. And then the mother is talking about her mother and talking about her life experience. And then she's telling me a bit about the grandmother. And I'm telling you, it is amazing when you can, in my position, step back and look at the pattern. So the grandmother had what she did with the mother, and it is what it is. You got to remember, you're going back sometimes 100 years, maybe more, maybe less. Doesn't really matter, but times have been so different. So what we take on from our ancestors, it shows up in various ways. And so when I'm looking at this mother and the daughter, it's like I can see where it had been in the timeline. And I'm going to highly recommend for this family that they have constellation work with Gary Stewart. You know, when you can see the pattern, and there's a part of it where it is like it's almost like it's ingrained. And like for this mother, she doesn't want to be upset at all. She loves this girl. Hey, Mr. Newmont,
Hello there.
Coach Newmont, pop your little head in here and come say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Here, come more here. There you are. Did you have a lovely practice?
Wasn't practice, was a game.
Oh, it was a game. Did you win?
12-2.
You have won almost all of your games.
Mhm.
Have you? And you tied one, I think.
Yeah, lost one. 1-6, tied one, lost one.
Yay, Coach Nick! Kudos. Good job.
Thank you.
Who is going to be on your show next week?
Don't have a show next week because I have an away game.
He has an away game.
Mainstream metaphysics is probably on hiatus until April the 1st.
Did you hear it? There you go. Well, I'm going to have Craig Shoemaker on Wednesday on my show.
I know.
Ta-da. It's going to be so fun. This is going to be gone by then, so I can really get a good laugh going. When he was teaching that class, I was laughing and coughing. It was just unfortunate.
Coughing.
Laughing and coughing because it's lingering and loitering. Oh my gosh. Anyway, to get back to this story, this woman loves this daughter, and there's a part of it when the daughter does what she does, knowing the story as I know it, there's a part of it where it triggers the mother because when she was a kid, there was all of that same thing that was going on. So when we don't heal what happened with us as a kid, and then we have a kid, and the kid starts crying, and the kid starts doing whatever the kid is doing, there can be this part where we get triggered and we climb in the back seat with our kid. And we're like, I can't even believe this. I had it with my own kid, so it's really important when you're a parent and you have kids, sometimes when they're crying, sometimes when they're angry and they're stomping their little feet, and we're just like not wanting to have any of it. A lot of times it's because it's triggering that part of us that didn't get nurtured, that didn't get loved, that didn't get talked through it, that didn't get whatever that is. So when you're doing the work, when you're doing all the stuff that I put in here, you're understanding it from a new perspective. So when your kid's doing whatever, it's like, oh, this is triggering me. I got to be the adult in the front seat, literally, because my kid is in the back seat. And I've got to look at my own ego, that kid part of me in the back seat, and it's like, what is this? Is it really about her, or is this triggering something about me? And I think that's one of the most challenging things with being a parent. I'm not kidding. It's a hard thing to do. And a lot of times parents, it's like they just don't want to hear their kid crying. They don't want to have their kid having a temper tantrum or any of that and be the patient adult and doing consequences or whatever it is that you're doing. It's like you just want to climb in the back seat with them and have your own little temper tantrum. All right. So I just wanted to share that. I'm probably going to share this next thing, and I might end this a little early if this cough doesn't go away. So bear with me. Is it lingering, loitering in there? I'm good. So this next thing that we're going to talk about was a question that somebody asked, and might be a little triggering. So open your minds and be willing to hear from a broader perspective. And I want you to really know ahead of time, there are always solutions for just about everything. Sometimes it's not the solution you expect. Sometimes it's not the solution that you want, but there are ways to do anything. And I'm also going to say, with what I'm about to say, I have in the Healthy Mind, Healthy Body class, we look, every time I do this workshop, I look at a whole bunch of new information because I want to be able to bring new solutions to the class. So when we're talking about various parts of the body, there's all of these ways that we can heal our bodies that, generally speaking, I've asked many, many clients, they'll go to the doctor and it's like they have a diagnosis of cancer, or they have a diagnosis of, I don't know, it could be a gazillion different things. And then the doctor, they do what they do. And a lot of times they'll put them on the prescription that goes with the symptoms. And a lot of times it doesn't heal it, it helps to make them feel better in the moment. But then a lot of times that can create its own separate thing, which is why I really am a strong advocate for doing things a little more outside of the box, researching and looking for the things that the doctors maybe don't know. Like, doctors a lot of times don't know about a HOCAT that helps to detox the body. When we were talking about the lymphatic system, the lymphatic system all throughout your body, it's needing to be detoxed. And so a HOCAT is a great way to do it. Infrared sauna is a great way to do it. I've been detoxing for over 12 years now, and I get healthier and healthier and healthier as I do it. So, like, I have somebody that I know, and she has been diagnosed with lymphoma. So I shared with her, look, there's various things you can do along with what the doctor's saying, and it offers solutions. The doctor never said to her, go get in a HOCAT, do infrared sauna, have a lymphatic massage, really eliminate toxins in your system, all these things that you can do to feel better. And so I, I want to say I've been on the planet for a lot of years now. Everybody knows I'm 62. And in my lifetime, there has been this steady increase in various diseases, illnesses, diagnoses of various things. And I have been watching, there was a point in around like 89 where things got a little more. And there was a point, various points along the way, because I look at numbers, I look at stats, I look at all kinds of information. Like in the military, just in, I think it was 2023 ish, they were looking at the military, and the numbers in people who were contracting various diseases went up exponentially like crazy. And then you're also you can look at different databases, and you can look at, I mean, all kinds of information. There's doctors that you can follow, like Dr. Malone and Dr. Like Del Bigtree. Uh, if you want, contact me. I can give you people to look at, and they talk about all these things. And I mean, various doctors, and some of them at the beginning of COVID, they were saying, we're not so sure that if you take that, it's going to make it where you don't get it. And they were called conspiracy at the time, and they were proven right. I know many people who have gotten COVID not once, but a few times now. And they have what's called like long COVID symptoms, and they got the thing. And so the person asked me if I thought that the thing was part of what was creating a lot of illness and disease. And I'll tell you, I said, I think that there is a high probability of it from everything that I've been looking at. And so I really want you to be clear as I'm saying that. I'm not saying that absolutely, but I'm saying that if that is a possibility, again, there are things that you can do at this point that detox from the system. There's all these protocols that you can do that will help to work your body into a healthier state, kind of regardless. There's things that you can take right now that are helpful in pulling things out of the system. And so if you don't believe it, then you're not going to take these things and it'll be what it's going to be. And you know what? We'll trust that you're all good to go. But like for this person that asked me, they have two people in their life just diagnosed, two people very close to them who have been diagnosed with cancer. And both of those people had that thing. And so there's a part of it where I have a girl that I know that works in the ICU, and her and I have had conversations about things. And I was explaining to her, I said, you know, we have to be able to look at everything. And, you know, a lot of people went in the hospital and they got certain treatments and they still passed. And now looking at those treatments, there's a lot of information that those treatments maybe weren't the best option. And so it's really hard to look at these things. I get it. I mean, I truly get it. I have cried massive tears over all of this. And it's a big, hard thing because, you know, it's like it's scary for people. And people want to be in their cognitive dissonance. It's like, I don't even want to look there. But it's like this person that I was talking with that works in the hospital. And she said, oh my gosh, I feel like I have been like an ostrich with my head in the sand. And I looked at her and I was like, well, that's very interesting that you would put it that way because an ostrich has its head in the sand so they can't see, they can't hear, they can't think about what's actually going on, but their body is out and vulnerable. So there's going to be many people that took that won't have anything happen at all because there were all these different versions of it. There were all these different batches of it. There were all this stuff that goes on with everything that happened back at that time. But if you're not willing to look at how to use this technology in today's moment and use whatever supplements that can be useful, there's a whole bunch of different protocols out there, various doctors who really, you know, come up with amazing things and they've done a lot of the research on it. I talked about Brian Artis the other day. You know, he's got some very interesting information as well. So the point that I'm making is it's really important to recognize your triggers and focus on I'm okay and I'm going to be okay. My kids are okay. My husband's okay. And what do we need to do to continue to be okay? And make it where you're focused on the solution and you're focused on what you can do. You know, when there is fear around it and I don't want to look at it, unfortunately, it's in the trunk and that can be creative. So when you are taking it out and you're looking at it for what it is, and you're owning those solutions, you're owning that part of you that instead of being suppressed, you're maybe expressing some righteous anger. That can be good at releasing, you know? Whatever it is that you can do, there's all these solutions. But if you're not looking and you're kind of, it's here in my book, I'm going to show it to you because this is probably one of the most important parts of all of this. It's this point of the pit stop. You have to stop the car. And there's a part of it where you have to get as calm as possible. Talk to yourself, maybe talk to people who have solutions. Maybe you need to take a new action. It can be anything. Sometimes it's about, I'm just going to release this and let it go and have faith and trust in the first driver, that greatest part of me that's leading me to the second or the next one down, the S, leading me to the solutions. And so, and also getting for the S support. Once you land there and you've grounded and centered yourself, you're not going down the loop and spinning around in this hard ass moment. And then you get to move over to the next box, which is the toolbox. And there's all these tools there to own your health, all these tools to own your love, your wealth, and that part about being happy. But if we're not looking at this, if we're just wanting to like, can't even go there, you're already going there. You're in it. So when you can recognize it and deal, you're empowering yourself. So I don't like to talk about these things. I don't like to be the bearer of this, anything that there could be, truth to any of that. But I'm just looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the things that people are telling me. I'm looking at mortuaries and different things like that. There's a lot going on. And it's a hard, hard time. So when you are able to recognize it and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you are doing everything that you can in those actions, owning a healthy diet, letting go of the stuff in the trunk, letting go of anger and resentment and bitterness, that can really be creative. Doing whatever that is that you can to bring in the joy, bring in the happy. That's why we're here. That's what this is all about. So I wanted to acknowledge that question and and see if there's any other questions. Um, Gloria, no, Milena is not playing softball anymore. She's just about to finish college in May. Oh, she's graduating and moving into her music career. So thanks for asking. And I'm looking at the time. So if there's no more questions, I'm just going to say a to do thing is call somebody that you love that you haven't talked to for a while. Find those moments where you can be in joy. Find those moments where you can take some new approach to what you've got going on. Really find anything that you can appreciate. Appreciation is insanely creative in the body. So I will be here again next week without whatever this is because I'm letting it go. And I'll have Craig with me. So I love you all very much and have yourself a great week. Take note of those to do things. If you're doing them and you're getting some great results, you can always text me. I love hearing good news. And I'll see you next week. Love you. Bye for now. If I can get to my end of the stream. Where's my mouse? All right. Good night, everybody.